There we go. Hello, Vanessa.
Hey, Brooke, it's so exciting to be here with you.
Oh, it's so much fun to see you. It's been so long, but
Yes.
we have half an hour. So I want to be really focused today. And I want to be pretty transparent about why I asked you to come on today.
Okay.
So maybe last week, I was on the phone. I was having a great day. I had a call with my branding company. So I get on the phone and I call them and I'm like on a total high. And I've done this and I've done this and I'm moving through this and I'm getting all this stuff done and I'm checking it off and it's all awesome. And within 5 or 6 minutes of the beginning of the call, it was a Zoom call, I hit rock bottom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, everything's wrong. This is horrible. We're never going to get out of this. Like just doom and gloom. And poor Elle, bless her heart, was on the other side of the Zoom going, okay, we can deal with this.
Yeah.
Like, just okay.
Yeah.
And she was really great. And she talked me back up so that, I wasn't ready to jump off a cliff. And I had 2 thoughts about that. The first one was, oh my gosh, everyone's going through this. Like, this is normal. This is emotional. This is stressful. So everyone's going like that. Mm-hmm. My next thought was, oh my gosh, my poor team is going through this with their clients. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, we need to get my team some help because it's crazy when you're faced with that. And so I thought about you, because you're so good at helping people get grounded and focused. And we need to be grounded and focused on our business and not like up and down.
In an ideal world.
Theoretically.
Theoretically. So again, permission to keep it real, right? Because again, I don't want anybody kind of feel like in this current climate that we're doing it wrong, they're wrong, something fundamentally wrong. Because the reality is, Brooke, as you said, it's just super, super challenging times right now. And I think there's also some amazing leadership opportunities. And I'm talking more on kind of a personal leadership level, as well as leading our teams, whereby, yes, we've got an opportunity to really learn how to be more present, centered, grounded, focused throughout this. Be committed to a vision, even though that vision may well be changing because of the COVID crisis. How do we kind of stay intact ourselves so that we can take care of others?
Yeah.
And just keep navigating through this. So I'd be, more than happy to kind of share a few of the tools that we've just been sharing with our clients through this journey. And again, acknowledging, I just got off a training call with my clients and I was like, I don't know, last night, all of a sudden, I just hit that wall of, and it wasn't even a meltdown. It felt like a funk. It was like how much longer, mummy, is it before we get there?
I saw something
where there is, right?
I saw something on Facebook one day that I thought was so interesting, and you may or may not endorse this, that they put up, I'm sad today, and I'm just going to take the day to be sad. Mm-hmm. And tomorrow's going to be a different day, but today is my sad day.
Yeah. And exactly. So one of the things, we've always said at the end of the day is, recognize as a leader, as a human being, I believe it's a really good practice that we do emotional check-ins multiple times throughout the day. And I think most of us just don't do that often enough. We don't have the practice of doing it. So I kind of call it like taking your emotional pulse. And this, right, has been more important than ever during COVID. Because as you said, you can be sad today. It's like 1 minute I'm here, then I'm over there. 1 minute it's an opportunity. The next minute it's gloom and doom. 1 minute we think we're getting a loan and the help. The next minute we're not. Teams, people, news. I mean, it's sort of all over the place. So I think, just recognizing where we're at emotionally is the best first step. And
so
being okay with that is
that's the second part of the sentence.
We're not going to judge it.
When you say do an emotional check-in, because you know me, I like the directions, like step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yeah.
How do you do that? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I think for different people, depending on even if this has been a practice, they'll have different kind of access points to it. Some people are really good. They just got the language around being able to kind of go almost like, how am I feeling right now? Like, what am I noticing emotionally? And they can immediately pinpoint I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling disappointed, I'm feeling calm, right? So that's kind of like an emotional vocabulary they may have. But that's like in a really good world. Sometimes it's kind of like, what am I feeling? It feels like it's just all over the place, right?
I feel like a chicken with my head cut off.
Like chicken with my head cut off, or I'm running around with my hair on fire, or heck knows what's going on. It's like I'm on a roller coaster. And so often for me, what I personally find is one of my best access points is I become aware of my body. So my emotional check-in is actually more of a physiological check-in. And I am not trying at that point in time to kind of be smart with my vocabulary and name an emotion. So it could be, oh gosh, I'm noticing I'm feeling really tight up here. I'm noticing I've got a lot of tension here. Oh, that's interesting. I'm noticing I'm feeling slightly irritated right now because I asked one of my team members to keep my dogs quiet and they haven't, right? It's like, I noticed my jaw just went tight, right? But again, just live examples, or I notice a real pit in my stomach.
That's the one that I get. Like, I was on the phone today and I was like, I kind of did that and I took a second. I was like, ooh, this conversation is not the conversation I want to have, or it's not going the way I want, or it's one that I don't want to have. Like, I couldn't quite pinpoint that emotion, but as my mother would say, what does your tummy say? My tummy said, we're not ideal.
Yeah, exactly, right? And again, it's like if we stop and listen and pay attention. Now, again, for me, the whole part of that is, and I think this is the really important step, is we cannot make ourselves wrong for what we are feeling. And I come from a school of thought that says whatever we deny will rule us. So if we kind of try to push that out of the way, it can just get bigger. So for me, I'm all about like just being with it. Sometimes noticing it, naming it, describing it is kind of enough to minimize it. From a leadership perspective, where I kind of then want to always take this a little bit further, is I know full well that my emotional state will drive certain decisions. It's going to drive certain actions. It will drive, how motivated I am. Do I want to launch a new project, podcast, or whatever? How might I show up with my team? So for me, I want to take that awareness to think about, okay, if like I'm in this present state right now, what might be the impact if I kind of stay here and don't do anything with it? And I'm a practical girl, so I like to think about, okay, is this okay? Or do I want to minimize this? Do I kind of want to take the edge off and neutralize it a bit? It's almost more of a self-care, Brooke. Right? So that the action that I'm going to take next feels more effective. And aligned with kind of where I want to go to. So for example, I think, these are just classic examples that we can always use. It's good practice, for example, when we're really irritated or angry or really fired up about something. Most times that is not the time to go in and have the kind of corrective conversation, right? It's like,
yeah. You need to take a breath, take a step back, kind of, yes, calm.
Sleep on it, go for a run, go out in nature, dance, whatever, right? So again, it's really thinking through that. And I think just these, emotions have been heightened. We are definitely in more stressful conversations right now. I think, some of us thinking, oh, perhaps it's, kind of getting to the end of COVID. And again, my thought process today is, and I don't have a crystal ball any more than anybody else does, but, in my own words here, I kind of think we might be entering like a really weird, awkward stage in terms of trying to open up. And, some people are going to feel really excited about that. Other people think it's Armageddon. And then there's kind of everything in between. And again, right, just a lot of different perspectives, different emotions, a lot of opinions. That we have to find like our way inside of that. And
Mm-hmm.
that kind of leads me to the new tool that we were, sharing with our clients when this kicked off. We launched a brand new program on the day everything went crazy. I know, it's kind of like
Always such a good idea.
always like wonderful sense of humor, universe. Thank you, right? And I said that I had no idea what was going to happen. It was like whoa. And in all the craziness of this, so we spent a lot of time. And by the way, these are business growth programs, right? When people have got businesses that have been shut down and executive orders that we're still trying to navigate, and we didn't know what they meant, and I mean all of that was going on. And so the mindset tool that we were using and still using now is about really creating the story for yourself that you want to be telling when inevitably we do look back on this period, because at some point we will, right? And we talked about again, who knows when, but we will. And it does become what is the story that you want to be telling yourself that you're going to feel proud of, how you showed up in this, how you led your family, your loved ones, your teams, how you navigated difficult communications, how you were perhaps with your broader community, perhaps those new skills inevitably, right, that we all have an opportunity to learn right now as well. And I think I have to say that question for me is the one that keeps getting me back into I've got an opportunity as a leader to show up differently and stretch. And if I know full well that if I just resort to kind of moaning and groaning and, saying that I just want to be on the couch watching Netflix or whatever the equivalent kind of might be, I know full well that me personally, I'm not going to feel proud of that. If that was my response to this, that's not going to work for me. So it always kicks me into some different level of creative thinking about, how can I use this opportunity for my own growth and leading others?
So I know that in the past, we've talked about having a vision and holding on to your vision. And that's what you're saying. Create what is the vision that you want coming out of this? What do you want to be able to say?
Totally.
How do you want to be? And then stepping into that vision and living that vision and letting that guide you on what you do.
Yeah, it totally is. And in this particular case, we haven't been in, often in business before, as you know, it's been more 3-year, 5-year visions, 1-year vision. But this one has been more short term.
3 week.
I like a 3-week, exactly, 3-minute. But more a kind of, let's assume that this was, this is going to be around for a 3 to 6 month period. I think that's kind of, we can safely kind of say that's probably the period. So again, it's like seeing yourself very specifically navigating this crisis.
Yeah.
Which is different to, where do you want to be 5 years from now, which can be impossible to access for people right now. It's just, that was often a very challenging question in the first place. But with so much uncertainty, that becomes really challenging. And I think, Brooke, the other side of this, and I certainly know for, we're in a process of reevaluating as well, certain things. We'd actually started to make some pretty significant changes before this kicked off. But this is a process of reevaluation for a lot of people and businesses, because they are seeing what's working, what were they doing previously, they're going, oh my gosh, why was I tolerating doing that? Because now I can see that I'm doing it differently. Or some of our business owners, and I think some businesses that may be shocked to hear this, they've fired clients in the middle of COVID. And as you know, I'm a real proponent for, not tolerating stuff. And they've seen, that certain of their clients have shown up in less than ideal ways, let's say, to be diplomatic. And they're kind of like, I've got enough to deal with right now. And, disrespect and overstepping boundaries and entitlement is something I'm no longer going to tolerate. Yeah. So just lots of levels to it.
And I think you're right. I think that's something that we've been doing with our clients on a financial level. Like, what do we think the impact of coronavirus is going to be? And where do we think we are going to be in June? And how are we going to move forward from there? because, we're numbers girls. We got to have the numbers.
Totally. Yeah.
I think you've got a great point. What's that vision of who do you want to be now?
Yeah.
So that you can move forward in some way. Otherwise, you are curled up on the couch watching Netflix.
Yeah, and I think, and again, it comes back to, I know, I think this is human. It's not just me, but we all need something to feel hopeful about.
Mm-hmm.
We all need something to just feel a little bit, a flicker of enthusiasm about, right? And those are those things that are going to pull us forwards. And again, as leaders in the business, right, that vision is our responsibility to create it. And we don't have to be sucked into the fear mongering and the anxiety of many people. We've got to pave our own way. And again, I think that really is the opportunity right now, and to hone those skills.
All right. So you're talking about the people around us getting sucked into that. So can you talk about teams? Because I know a lot of times the business owner may be fine.
Yep.
Your team is because as
Yep.
entrepreneurs, we generally have a higher risk tolerance.
Totally.
Right? But the people who work for us don't necessarily share that same risk profile.
Yeah.
So they're freaking out.
I know, and this has been really interesting because I've actually spoken to so many, different levels of business owners and in kind of different sizes of business. And you and I, we kind of operate in a same world, relatively small business. So it does mean that, yeah, things are pretty tight and relationships, and we impact one another, and we kind of feel all these things. But I've also spoken to people as well that have been in business, some newer to some that are kind of more seasoned. And so it's interesting to see where the responses on that one are very different in terms of team. And again, nobody's wrong in this. It's just, there's just different levels of learning. But from perhaps somebody that's earlier stage building a team, and they're finding their team members are kind of freaking out or getting negative. And perhaps as the leader, they're really not sure what to do about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I call them out? Do I say that this is unacceptable? Do I have to keep repeating the same messages? Do I start to put a boundary around this and say these conversations, we're just not having them in here? Through to, some of my more seasoned business leaders that are really saying, did you just really say that? And really directly calling them out on it. Come on, we're not going there. So yes, I think again, it comes back to the first step is we have to get clear on our communication. What is the vision? What do we believe in? What are we just taking a stand for? So that our conversation inside of us becomes louder than the conversations that are potentially happening outside of us, right? So I think that's kind of step one. Mm-hmm. And then there's definitely going to be a time for more communication with team. And again, I just want to keep this real in the sense of, I've had quite a few of my business owners kind of say to me, I'm doing a really good job. Vanessa, I'm doing a really good job taking care of, I've got this, right? And then they're kind of like, gosh, I don't know if I haven't quite got the energy for
everybody else.
For everybody else. And I think that that's real, right? It can take a lot just to kind of work on ourselves. So we've got to be gentle in the sense that, yeah, let's start here. Give of what we can, but let's not expect complete miracles overnight. Again, depending on the levels of experience and everything else that's going on. And then it is having some boundaries around what conversations are going to be allowed, what conversations can be explored, what ones do we just say, this one is completely off the table here. And again, we decide as a business leader, because I know I don't have a high tolerance for a lot of moaning and groaning and kind of dramatizing things. I want to be able to move on from that. So that's just not something that, I allow to have in the business. And I'm clear on that boundary, and it doesn't happen inside the business.
That's where we are.
Yeah, it's like, that's where we're at. It's like, we don't do that.
So if you were talking to someone who has those people, and is it really just setting expectations? Is it being very forthright and saying, we're not I mean, how can you, if someone on your team is feeling scared and apprehensive and unsettled and all of that, so earlier you said no emotion is wrong.
Yeah.
How do we acknowledge the emotion and move them past it?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
we have
That's
to
it.
change the team.
And for me, and it can become murky water, right? Because I see sometimes people are tempted to kind of go into the coach role and delve in there and try and help. And then we haven't necessarily got all of those tools and skill sets at our disposal, nor the time and the energy. And then all of a sudden we can find ourselves in deep, murky water, right? Trying to deal with something that's completely unrelated to business that might be impacting business. So for me, it's about empathizing and acknowledging what is, in the sense of, listen, we're all there's a challenge that's happening right now. We're all being impacted by this in different ways. Some of us may have kids now that are home. Some of us have got husbands as well that are home, some of us, that like they're homeschooling and their business. So it's not denying what's going on, it's acknowledging it and giving a voice to it. And for me, it's about, and this is how, I'm seeing us leading our clients and our business through this.
Moving forward, yeah.
So for me, it's always the and I think it's, it's a difficult balance, Brooke. This isn't, unfortunately, there's no paint by numbers, do this and then this happens, right? It's like it's a constant navigating those waters to see what works. And I think, again, though, still the most important thing there is our teams and our clients are also we're going to remember that they're looking for that leadership guidance, a calm voice of reason, right? Some confidence that even though we don't know when this is going to be over, kind of like we're moving forwards through this. And I think that's just so important that we stay centered around that, and keep our freakouts somewhat yeah, up a mountain or out on a run somewhere.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I've noticed that as we go through, things have changed. So in the beginning, it was all kind of temporary. And then at some point we realized we're kind of settling into this. That's when I noticed things started disappearing off of my team's desks because their husbands and children were like, oh, this isn't a 3-day deal.
Yeah.
And like all of a sudden office supplies were gone and like their webcams were gone. But that was a whole new level.
Yes.
Right? Like it was the temporary, then it was we're settling into this for the long haul. And I think now we're at that kind of end stage of, a lot of people aren't ready to go back out. Some people have cabin fever that just can't be
totally
ignored. And so I think emotions are running high everywhere, whether it's I don't want to leave or I do want to leave or whatever it is. I think that's rough.
It is rough. And as I say, I think we're entering another transition of this where, again, it's like perhaps they're desperate to get back to work, but if you've got kids, the kids aren't going back to schools, or do we have nannies or childcare, and do we want to have that? I mean, there are so many different levels to this. I just know for myself, and again, I'm going to speak from my own experience here, that I am a better version of me and I lead more effectively when I can access some level of calm and centeredness inside of me.
Yeah, I don't think anybody leads well from fear.
No, and we don't. And it's like, fear is always going to take me down a dark, gloomy path. And then that's when we kind of get into the hunkering down, right? We're just protecting. And it's a natural place to want to go when we're scared. We want to protect and like safeguard things. But for me, I don't see it as a viable long-term strategy. Whereas, you know, if I can get calm and centered, I'm going to get a little bit more focused on, well, what do I want? You know, how do I want to navigate this? What do I want to see happening? How do I want to show up? It helps me to access that level of resourcefulness and ultimately just kind of feel better and calmer in myself and sleep better at night, right? And so, you know, we've been putting a lot of emphasis, and you know, I mean, we've always done that in our programs. We've emphasized self-care always as part of business growth. This is not something new for us, but you kind of like now more than ever, this is where we've said this really is a time to, you know, however creatively it might be, to get some time for yourself, whether it's, you know, physical activity, some meditation. Some of our clients are just getting up super early because they've got kids at home and they're saying they've discovered there's a window and it's early in the morning. But
and that window's at 6:15 in the morning.
And that window's early, but they're like, my goodness, they're like, the difference this makes to my day and my well-being. If I grab my coffee and I do a little bit of journaling, I've just got some time, you know, by myself. So I think, you know, the overall message that I would want to kind of leave everybody with is we've all heard about the analogy of the oxygen mask. And, you know, when the oxygen mask comes down on the plane, you put it on yourself first so that you can help other people and be, you know, be there for other people. And that is more relevant today than it ever has been, I think, in this climate.
Yeah. All right. So I just want to do a quick recap. It's stop during the day, do kind of a scan, figure out what the emotion is, acknowledge the emotion, and then go back to the vision, or you used a different word. Vision was my word.
Yes, what is the story I want to be, like kind of the new story I want to be creating to you know, how I navigate this.
Go back to that story and let the story guide you forward.
Yes.
Find the moment of calm, let the story guide you forward.
Yes.
All right, Vanessa, we said half an hour. It is 29 after. If people have questions for you, how do they find you?
Yeah, bestway.vanessashaw.com. They can go straight to the website there. There's contact forms. There's a free book, The $1 Million Question, that you can also download. And I do also have a Facebook group, The $1 Million Book. No, The $1 Million Group, I guess it's called. I've even forgotten now. You see, emotions are all over the place. Calm and centered.
There you go. Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath.
Go forward.
Yeah, Brooke, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
So much. This was great. I appreciate it.
Speak soon. Take good care of you.
Bye-bye.